Katera Rising by J.D. Evergreen. Chapter 17. We trek through the mushrooms, winding our way this way and that, ever conscious of the beasts that could be stalking us, lurking just out of sight. My sword bumps annoyingly against my thigh with every step I take. I sigh. My leg is starting to get sore from the constant touching. How long does it take to get used to this? I look in front at Lexa, who walks with her hand on the hilt of her sword. I mimic the gesture and find instant relief from the tapping on my thigh. I roll my neck and the muscles there twinge, exhausted beyond reason. Something flashes past the corner of my eye. I twist to peer into the mushrooms. The only thing I see is giant glowing fungus and the occasional rock and dried bush. We're being followed. Lexa murmurs in a low voice. Lucas twitches in front of me.
Why couldn't they just leave us be? What do we do?
Tash asks, trying to mirror Lexa's calm. Lexa grips the hilt of her sword. Keep walking. What happened at the fire might keep them away, but be prepared. We walk this way for another couple of paces, but the dogs become bolder. I start seeing them clearly, instead of the possible glimpse I had earlier. Pink flesh shows vividly between the mushrooms. It isn't excellent camouflage. I clear my throat. I don't think the mutant dogs are going to let us just walk away. Nathaniel grips his giant sword.
I told you they would come back.
Melissa spins on the spot and resumes walking.
I count 18. There are 6 of us.
Lucas chimes in.
2 of which barely have the strength to walk.
Nathaniel scoffs. Tash casts a nervous look.
And those are just the ones we can see.
I glance at the rushing water beside us. Tash and I lock eyes at the same moment.
Last resort?
We say in unison. Lexa raises her eyebrow and casts us a look. I nod to the water. We could get in with the flesh-eating fish. Maybe they will eat the blood-covered mutant dogs over us. Lexa eyes the glowing river beside us. That will only work if the dogs get in the water too. It is likely they are more aware of its danger than we are. Lucas fidgets with a bag on his belt.
Yeah, the jigglers live here full-time. We are just visiting.
Jigglers, Melissa inquires. Lucas nods.
The mutant dog things, they jiggle as they walk. I thought a funny name would make them less horrifying.
I look out at one of the pursuing dogs, and the pink wrinkled skin does indeed jiggle with every step the beast takes. My nose crinkles and I look away. Now that I have noticed the jiggling, I will never be able to unsee it. The image is now burned into my mind forever. I shake my head as if that will somehow dislodge the image making a home in there. A strange yapping fills the air, and one of the dogs charge at us. Nathaniel steps forward and efficiently cuts the dog down in midair, his massive sword cutting the beast in half. The 2 parts land with a thud and blood runs down into the water beside us, standing out vividly in the glowing river around it. My body tenses, waiting for the screaming of the mushrooms to return like it did the last time the dogs made an attack. But no roaring of wailing vegetation reaches my ears. I don't get time to ponder why when a group of dogs charge us, apparently smarter than the first. One could be taken down quickly, but as a group they outnumber us. Adrenaline beats in my veins as my body registers the life or death situation. With energy I could not have found only minutes ago, I pull my sword from its scabbard as the group reaches us, and we fly into battle. A large dog swings its club tail at me, and I dodge it. Lexa steps in, slicing through the attacking limb, green magic wounds framing her well-muscled arms. The severed tail thuds to the ground and slowly rolls towards the river. A dog leaps over its mangled companion, only to collapse in midair, a knife buried deep in its skull. I glance at Melissa. She is already drawing a new blade, her eyes searching for her next target. A snarl pulls my attention back. I swing my sword as a nearby dog swipes me, severing its paw mid-strike. Its long saber teeth gleams in the blue light of the mushrooms. Tash leaps on its back and buries her dagger deep between its shoulder blades. A small explosion causes my ears to ring, and I turn to find Lucas pulling small grey beads from the pouch on his belt, hurling them at the attacking dogs with deadly accuracy. Each bead explodes on impact, sending chunks of unfortunate dogs everywhere. Lucas grabs another handful of beads and throws them at the dogs around him.
Bad jigglers.
Fairly certain Lucas has his situation under control, I return my attention to the two dogs advancing on me. I take a deep breath. I have been hurt worse than this in a gladiator fight, and still won. I step in close to the first dog, slashing my blade through its tail as it swings at me. The weaponized rear comes off and sails into the water behind me. The second dog pounces. I crouch, driving my sword in its stomach as it soars above me. I yank my sword free while the dog is airborne, listening to the loud splash as it crashes into the river. Lexa draws her second short sword and takes on 3 dogs at once. Her blades blur through the air, expertly cutting the dogs down with precision. But for every fallen dog, more take their place. I realize with a jolt, they are slowly working on separating her from our group. Even now, the dogs are managing to sneak around and encircle her. Had Lexa not been weakened by the use of magic, I am sure she could have kept the beasts at bay with her dancing swords. But I can see the fatigue setting in. Lexa stumbles. A dog lunges. She dispatches it quickly, but the misstep is obvious. To me, and to them. More mistakes will happen. I hack my way through dogs trying to get to Lexa. Most are so intent on their prey that they don't hear my approach. "Lexa!" I yell, blowing my cover and bringing the dog's attention to me. "They are trying to separate you." Lexa looks up in alarm and takes in the gap the dogs have forced between her and the rest of the group and redoubles her efforts. The others hear my yell, and they too move as a group towards Lexa. I am first to reach her, and we stand back to back, the pile of dead dogs growing at our feet. Their numbers seem endless. We can't keep this up. Exhaustion makes my limbs heavy, and the lines on my body make every movement excruciating. The only thing keeping me going is the adrenaline, and I am bound to run out of that eventually. The water behind me begins to splash about, and I spin on my heel, afraid I have left one of the beasts alive. And behind me, the glowing water of the river bubbles and churns. I reach over and take hold of Lexa's arm before I remember my necklace is in my pocket. We can't use our magic, but I can't bring myself to let go of her either. A giant blue head rises out of the water, its body spiked and elongated. Massive yellow eyes take in the scene before it. The dogs freeze as the creatures hover silently at the water's edge. It is hard to tell where the head ends and the body begins as the enormous beast brandishes its head back and forth, showering Lexa and myself with speckles of glowing water. Its massive mouth opens, and an ear-splitting bellow erupts from the terrifying creature. I step back from it and towards the dogs. It lunges forward, and Lexa pulls me close, shouting over the deafening thrashing of water. "It's an eel." The massive head knocks me down and grabs the mutant dog that is behind me. It snatches it by the leg and drags it yelping into the water. I crawl to my feet with the help of Lexa as another eel rises from the river and dodges around Nathaniel to take one of the dogs he had been fighting. This dog meets the same grisly fate as the first. More eels arrive, dragging the dogs into the reddening water behind us. Most of the dogs scatter, but a few remain to fight off the eels. The important thing is that at this moment, all the monsters are ignoring us in favor of fighting each other. I turn to the group and bellow, "Run!" I tug hard on Lexa's hand, and we break into a run, the others following close behind as we hightail it away from the monsters, their vicious quarreling fading into the distance. The river rushes beside us, its bloodied water swirling as our feet pound the dirt along its edge. A small cave catches my attention. It sits just off the riverbank, a shallow stream trickling through its entrance. The faint glow of reflected water lights the tunnel until it twists out of sight.
"Do we go in?" Tash puffs.
Tash puffs. I peer into the cave. It seems empty. I hesitate. I don't want to be trapped in there with an angry monster any more than I want to be trapped out here with an angry monster. Lexa is pale and swaying beside me. The magic has taken a heavy toll on her body.
"I don't know, it feels kind of murdery."
Melissa's tired voice comes from behind me. I tighten my grip on the sword in my hand. As opposed to everything else in this place? Heavy breathing announces the arrival of Lucas and Nathaniel behind us. The sounds of the raging animals are still too close for comfort.
You're right.
Melissa agrees.
Maybe it is just your everyday run-of-the-mill murdery. It's not so bad when you compare it to mutant dogs, giant flesh-eating eels, and murderous vegetation.
Lucas marches past us and into the tunnel, calling over his shoulder.
I vote we take the murder tunnel before the jigglers find us and try to claim further revenge.
Melissa shrugs and steps forward.
Walk in the water, it will help to hide our scent.
Everyone hastily splashes into the shallow water and hurries down the tunnel. Quick reminder, if you're enjoying the adventure, don't forget to like the video and subscribe for new chapters every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. It really helps the channel grow, and hey, who doesn't love more sapphic dark fantasy in their life? Alright, back to the chaos. Padding in the near darkness. I tighten my grip on Lex's hand as we travel through the small dark cave. We eventually come across a split in the tunnel. 3 different directions, each as anonymous as the last. I peer down the tunnels, trying to get a hint about where they lead. Which way? I ask. 2 of the tubes climb up and out of sight, while the third middle tunnel snakes down and to the right. The middle tunnel is the only one with any sort of lighting, as the small trickling river crawls down through it. Nathaniel shifts his massive weight as he approaches each tunnel.
A central tunnel might be submerged, and in any case, it is traveling down. That doesn't seem like the way to get out.
Melissa eyes him.
It could be. We could always follow each tunnel for a while and see where it leads before deciding, but it could be easy to get lost if the tunnels split further down.
Lucas runs his hands through his hair.
Let's not forget, only one of the tunnels are lit, and we don't have any supplies to make torches.
Lex's hand shakes in mine, and I look up at her pale, tight-lipped face. The magic has hurt her badly. I look at the group and clear my voice. Maybe we can rest here while we choose a tunnel. Tash eyes Lexa and me with concern.
Sounds like an excellent idea. I am stuffed.
Lexa clears her throat.
Okay, we shall rest for a few moments while we decide which tunnel is the best course of action.
We all move out of the water, our boots glowing from contact with the luminous liquid. Together we pile against the wall. I sigh as I lean back against the smooth, damp rock. All my limbs ache and throb from their abuse. Magic certainly has a price, and I am not so sure I am willing to pay it. Then again, we would have surely perished without it. I glance at Lex's wounds. The green lines still stand out vividly, even casting some light on the wall behind her. It was strange the way the magic tracks appeared on her body when the dogs were repelled from the light bubble. Maybe it was Lex's magic that pushed them away. Melissa kicks a fist-sized rock into the shallow stream, and I watch as it rolls out to the other side and glows. I point at Melissa's glowing rock and say, we could roll some rocks in the water and use them to light the way in the dark tunnels. Lucas flashes a grin.
Not to mention our new glow-in-the-dark boots.
Lexa nods beside me, then, with great composure, pulls herself to her feet.
We can't stay here. We have no food or water to recover properly, and even now, those beasts outside could be tracking us.
I grumble and pull myself to my feet as my whole body screams in protest at the movement. Which way? I ask. Lexa considers the tunnels.
I agree with Nathaniel. I believe the water will converge together in the third tunnel. But we have no way of knowing how far it leads.
She rubs her head and glances to the right.
Let us take the tunnel to the right and see what our options are.
She decides. Lucas, Tash, and I head over to the stream to collect some of the glowing rocks from beside it. I gather a whole bunch of smaller pebbles and cram them into my pocket. Glowing rocks in hand, we venture into the right-hand cave. We travel in near darkness. The stones help, but not much. The walls reflect the strange blue light, and creatures of the night skitter from the edges of the glow. Thirst tickles my throat, and my cracked lips do their best to absorb the tiny amount of moisture in the air. Already my head has begun to ache. We won't be able to go much longer without water. I eye the glowing rock in my hand. We may have to consider the possibility of drinking from the bright stream. We travel down this path for no more than 5 minutes before we find the way blocked by an old cave-in. Massive rocks are piled so high and packed so tightly together that even a team of people would take weeks to clear the tunnel.
But this isn't the way,
Melissa announces for anyone who had somehow missed the literal wall of rocks. We turn and retreat back down the path and gather together in front of the 3 tunnels. Nathaniel walks right past us and up to the left cave entrance. He stoops to peer down it.
It seems to be clear, but there is a part right at the beginning that looks quite narrow.
He grunts.
But if I can get through it, the rest of you should be fine.
I glance over at Lex's weary features and I fight with the exhaustion within my body. Hopefully we find a way out soon. We squeeze through the left side entrance one at a time. I nudge Lexa in before me. As I squeeze through, I drop little glowing stones on the ground behind me with every 3 or 4 paces. This cave is much longer than the first and it requires a fair bit of squeezing to get through. I force myself through one such gap, and the wet rock face sticks to my hair, pulling at it with its clammy grasp. I exit the narrow space and step into a room dotted with tiny wriggling lights. I gape at the stunning ceiling, and it takes time for me to realize the light is caused by little blue-white grubs that hang from the ceiling. Their ends glow brightly and light the small cavern space around us.
What are they?
Tash asks, staring up at the roof. Lucas steps close and inspects one, poking it gently with his index finger. The little grub lights up brightly in response, and something sticky comes away with Lucas's hand. He holds it up to the group as if it is undeniable proof.
These are glowworms. They make silk to catch their prey, insects and the like. It's okay, they are harmless.
The group noticeably relaxes at his words. For the last few hours, every type of glowing thing we had encountered had been monstrous creatures that craved blood and flesh. I am not going to lie, it is a relief knowing they aren't going to try and eat me. Trickling catches my attention, and I turn towards the sound. A small stream of clear water dribbles from a hole in the rock face and pools in the bowl-shaped cup below it. Someone had painstakingly gone to great efforts to carve that stone bowl. The lines of a chisel are still prominent. My heart hammers in my throat and my thirst roars into life, demanding to be fed. Gently I touch Lexa's hand and show her the water. Lexa's green eyes follow my pointed hand.
Is that water?
She asks. The rest of the group turns around eagerly. Lucas pushes his glasses up his nose.
There is water? Where?
Lexa points at the wall and the group crowds around the small stream, taking turns to fill their hands and drink their fill. Once everyone has drunk all they can hold, I use my hands to wipe the drying blood from my face, Lexa beside me following my lead. Lexa turns to the group.
Let us rest here for a time. Feel free to explore, but do not go too far. There has been one rockfall in this tunnel already. I do not wish to lose people in another.
Everyone nods and pokes about. Personally, I have absolutely no desire for anything except sleep. I slump to the ground and inspect my arms. Some of the smaller blue lines have faded, but the deeper ones remain. I look up at Lexa. She still has a long green line over her forearm and a few on the left side of her neck. I put my hand to my pocket and find the necklace, still securely in place. I'm not game to put it on, but my fear of losing it is almost as strong as my fear of using it. Alexa sinks down beside me and puts her head in her hands.
We don't know how they are still going.
I smile ruefully. They didn't just use their life force to repel mutant dogs and screaming mushrooms. Lexa chuckles into her hands.
I suppose we should have heeded the words of the gifted elders. They told us this magic would have consequences.
I nod, but without it, it is very likely we would all be dead. Lexa nods and rubs her arm. The smaller lines on her arm have started to close, so they no longer ooze green light, but the skin around them is red and inflamed. I look up at Lexa's face and study the way her dark brown curls fall from her hair tie to rest on her face. I think it was your magic that repelled the dogs, I say as I glance at her, when they came into contact with our light bubble. Lexa looks at me with surprise.
What makes you say that?
I swallow. Every time one of the dogs struck the light bubble, it flashed green and a new line appeared on your body. Lexa raises an eyebrow. You have lines on your body too. I nod and look at the score of blue cuts across my arms. Mine appeared steadily after the first blue flash. I think it is possible our magic may be specialized. Lexa stares thoughtfully at my arms. What is your specialty? I shrug and give her a grin. I didn't say I had it figured out. I'm just guessing based on random events. I could be putting it together all wrong. Lexa nods. Even so, it is a theory we should consider going forward. Tash pops her head out of a narrow gap she had been exploring. You two should come and see this. Lexa shakes her head and climbs to her feet before holding her hand out to me. No rest for the wicked, she says tiredly. I smile and take her hand, acutely aware of how it feels grasped in mine. She helps pull me to my feet, and along with the others, we head over to the place Tash's head had materialized from moments before. Everyone else squeezes through the gap, and Lexa and I are the last to force our way through the hole. Tash sets a few glowing rocks at her feet, and their ghostly light reveals two skeletons laying side by side on a tattered mat. That's the end of chapter 17. What a mess. Mutant dogs, glowing rivers, and flesh-eating eels. Definitely not a travel destination I'd recommend. If you're enjoying the adventure, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. New chapters drop every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, so hit that notification bell to stay ahead of the monsters. And tell me in the comments, would you take your chances in the murder tunnel, or are you diving straight into the glowing river and hoping for the best? Let's hear your survival plans. Or we could just follow Luca's wisdom and rename everything to make it less horrifying. Bad jigglers, no! See you in the next chapter.